Yes, thank you. And the final presentation today is to be delivered by Marek Novak, Director of Development of the Institute of Ladislav Hanus and the organizer of the Conservative Summit from Slovakia. The topic is Best Slovakian Central Europe Practices of Pro-Family Policies and Fight Against Woke Ideologies.
To be here. Thank you for invitation. It's a big honor and pleasure. My name is Marek Novak. I come from Slovakia and I represent here our Ladislav Hanus Institute and Ladislav Hanus Fellowship. So I would like to briefly inform you about our activities and also how we approach important topics we are discussing here today. And also we have been discussing yesterday. And then I would like to tell the situation or our experiences and some kind of best practices from Slovakia. So I will just show some illustration pictures. So just a moment, please. Can you show me this to the screen? Ah, I see. Close. Okay. Oh, no, okay, it's fine. Okay, thank you. I will need it. So this is basically the very important event last year for us. We have had already 20th anniversary of our Ladislav Hanus Fellowship. DNA of this fellowship started more than 20 years ago, inspired by American Witherspoon Institute, which is making program for young Christian or people interested in the intellectual wisdom and deepness of Christian and Catholic teaching. And this is actually for more than 20 years also still the DNA of our fellowship. We, during these 20 years, through this formation academic program, passed more than 600 people. And well, it's the motto we have chosen from the Bible. It's motto for our fellowship. It's Matthew 5:16. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So the vision also of our institute which is coming from our fellowship, and it's more focused to public involvement. It's to combine faith with reason, to cultivate Christian culture, and to courageously promote conservative principles in public life. So we got a great inspiration, and also we see very good motivation from the quote of Saint John Paul II. He said in 1996, after he visited Slovakia, following statement: Slovakia has a great role to play in the building of the Europe of the third millennium. Remember that. It is called to offer its very significant contribution to the true progress of the European continent through its traditions, its culture, its martyrs and confessors, as well as through the living forces of its new generation. So we consider it very beautiful and very strong, and of course it's a huge challenge to try to fulfill that. So during this more than 20 years, this educational program is following the community of more than 600 people, from which also many marriages arrived, and also with broad families with many children, and lively community, depending from coming from these curses and this life community. This pillar of community, it's very important because also when I travel abroad, I often hear like the Christians today, or people who are not satisfied with mainstream culture, mainstream narratives, often feel like isolated, or they are some kind of different from mainstream culture and society, and it tends often that people are starting to self-censorship themselves, and start to being or living like double life. You have family life where you follow all these beautiful principles and values, and compatible with your religion or with your conservative perspectives. And then you have like public life, when many people just don't want to be in conflict with the whole world every day, and just maybe are not able to go against all these strong narratives we are facing today in various parts of society and culture. So we consider it very important to have like a great and working network of these communities, because then you can strengthen each other, support each other, and be more effective, and be and living these principles not only in private life, but bring them and all the important topics, narratives, and solutions for the challenges also to the society. So we have actually two kinds of activities focused inside our fellowship, like spiritual renewals, these educational courses, and every month at least every month we gather on a day of fellowship with Holy Mass discussions on important topics, and so. And then we have public activities, which I will speak about in a while. So this formation program, which is kind of let's say the process of new members who are able then to become the full members of our fellowship. They are studying the important texts from ancient philosophers like Aristotle or the classic Catholic thinkers like Saint Augustine through the all the medieval and like Saint Thomas Aquinas until the today encyclic of popes and the magisterium of the church. But also, of course, our students are challenged by the secular thinkers and all the new ideologies, also ideologies of 20th century, the totalitarian, communist, nationalist, or old liberalism, but also the new ideologies like progressive ideology and neo-Marxism, cultural Marxism, and so on. So our students are meeting like every week during this 1-year intensive program, and they need to read quite a broad amount of this text, and then they are discussing with a moderator these topics deep inside, and they have to also write the essays and have these moderation meetings where they can go through the topics from perspective of 12 young people. The number of 12, it's also like from the biblical context, but it's a good number to have intensive, to build intensive community during this year between young people, and to have a accurate number for discussion. So basically this formation program is meant for people not only to politics, but to broader range of public life, for media, for NGOs and civil society leaders, but as well as business leaders, or we have even a few priests who passed our formation program. So during this academic year, our students not only are meeting in like every week meetings, but also they go on like academic weekends, and they meet important personalities from, or experienced personalities from public or conservative public life in Slovakia. There is then the exchange of important experiences from the previous generations, and they can get inspiration for like understanding broader context of today's challenges. So after the few years of these educational programs, our leaders were inspired actually by a few Polish public festivals, and created like Hanus Days Festival, which is an academic festival with full of discussion and cultural events, which is trying to bring like important and inspirational speakers from all over the world. It has been already like 13 years of this festival. We make it in Bratislava and in the east of Slovakia, in Košice, and we have always the actual topic. We are discussing actual topics, but also bringing the inspiration from the broad and deep wisdom base of Christian culture. So the point is not only to like fight against the bad or dangerous ideologies of today, but bring positive alternatives, bring all these fruitful narratives and fruitful thoughts which are on which actually our civilization was based, and now is shifting away from them. So to better understand our roots and bring them back to public life. So we started also to organize a Catholic conference focused especially to women and to women's spirituality and the practical life, because we consider it also important to bring like positive alternative in comparison with what women are listening today as a mainstream offer for them, like at first the career and family later, and this individualism. So we are trying to bring some inspiration which is holistic from the Christian perspective. Then 2 years ago, we started to organize Conservative Summit, which is like international event mainly focused on people and leaders, conservative and Christian leaders from politics, culture, churches, and as well civil society and all these stakeholders. And every year we have like politicians and intellectuals and church representatives and civil society representatives from Central Europe and also from other European countries, trying to make it a more international event every year. And it's the only like conference or summit in Slovakia with explicitly Christian and conservative values and focus. So we are also issuing the Verbum journal for Christian culture, and the goal is to have the young and middle generation of conservative thinking and Christian thinking people to form on the intellectual way the ideas and formulate the thesis which then after in this world of ideas are formulated later can be also in a practical way be applied in public life. So it's very important to think not only in a political way, as we are trying to not be only activist organization. Of course, activism and fighting against bad things is very important, but in broader cultural aspects, as I think more of you are familiar with the strategy of neo-Marxists or progressives, that you have to go in a longer perspective through the institutions, through the education, through the built institution which will be affecting society for a longer time than is one parliamentary period. And that's why it's very important to work into the culture in the broader aspect. Of course, I don't mean only art, but I mean culture as an environment and as an environment of thoughts and narratives we are all facing, and we are all part of it. So along with these big events like Hanus Days Festival or Conservative Summit, we make also some regular every month meetings and talk shows in Bratislava. One format is more on the world of ideas and theoretical, and the Conservative Forum is more practical, because we are trying to establish also regular dialogue with politicians. And the problem, of course, is not only formation of politics, to have politicians with solid values and with values they will not go away when they will be under pressure, but there is very important also formation of citizens and voters, because many people, even from conservative or Christian part of society today, just don't realize many challenges, and it's very important to bring this explanation, put light on it, and show the real consequences if we will not act. What will happen with our society? So more information about our fellowship you will find also on this page, and I would like to continue with some examples of good practice from Slovakia, or what we have learned from our activities and with other stakeholders we have. We can say that almost every Christian or conservative institution in Slovakia have some of our absolvents. So what we are trying to build now is something like working ecosystem of organizations which will be able to coordinate and to have to be able to react on actual challenges with and every organization need to have some specialization, and then we can have better coordination. So this is the thing we need also on a European scale, not only Central European, but connect these actors and institutions. And we need to know about each other, which are our strong focuses, and help each other. So I suggest you, when I was speaking about our formation course, I will for a while come back to that because we have a precious experience. It was also mentioned yesterday, but the father from Lithuania, we have also precious experience of underground church with the resistance to totalitarianism. And it was also mentioned the broader story, if you are interested in this experience from Central Europe, in a great book of our friend Rod Dreher, Live Not by Lies. And there is also recipe for the soft totalitarianism we are facing today. So this experiences of small but well connected and solid network of fellowships or communities is absolutely vital to keep resilience against these new ideologies, and to be not isolated with autocensorship, but be like well-organized, creative minority, as Pope Benedict XVI was speaking about as well. So when I come to some practical experiences in Slovakia, these topics came really hot. We can say like 10 or 15 years ago, when the activists and people who were active in various council or giving petitions or comments to legislative process realized that very controversial or dangerous things are coming through various so-called human rights strategies in our government, and actually these were often held or were promoted and processed through quite not democratic process. So we realize that often it can happen that these so-called councils, which can give some advices to government, can formulate, and not only formulate, but create a draft, and then the government will just agree with strategies which didn't go even through the public debate, and which society is really not informed about. and even do not agree. So it was around the year 2013, 2014, and after this experience, activists from various parts of Christian or conservative organizations and initiatives organized a referendum for the family, which was actually just about keeping the status quo of our legislation, to keep like marriage of one man and one woman exclusive, to not have a civil unions, to keep the education of children in the hands of parents, and so on. But it was in the year 2015, and then was really huge counter initiative, or almost every media outlets in Slovakia had headlines like how this referendum is against the LGBT rights, and how it's promoting something dangerous against the minorities and sexual minorities, and so. And after this referendum, with this strong anti-campaign, unfortunately it had only like 20% of voters participating, and in Slovakia for successful referendum you need at least 50% participation on the nation level. So the referendum was not successful in the way of approving the results to legislation, but it was quite successful in the way like politicians from the parties agreed to put the marriage of men and women to the constitution in the similar time period along this referendum. And also it had several secondary positive aspects, because when conservative and Christian people realized how historical was the campaign against this referendum, they realized that the mainstream media just do not represent them or even represents reality, and this campaign was full of hoaxes. So one of the secondary positive results of this referendum was the creation of media or internet newspapers called Postoj, which was oriented to conservative and Christian readers. And it started to establish like independent media from the mainstream, but which are like professional and not only volunteer or so-called alternative, which has problem with another type of hoaxes, and so. So this was very important steps, and even after years, despite this referendum was not successful at the main goal, also many activists from LGBT groups say that it stopped these efforts like for 10 years, because the atmosphere was so hysteric that even they were promoting the next steps with like more patience, or were not able to motivate political parties with higher power to put this as a political priorities. So the lesson we learned, it's sometimes important to do what is right, despite there is maybe no chance to reach the main goal, but it can have many secondary positive results. And another positive result was that during these campaigns, like a network of organizations and actors from conservative spectrum was able to organize in a better way. And now and later, when various laws which were against natural or divine law were appearing on in the legislation process, it was possible to react faster and to have, for instance, to give the comments in the official legislation process and earn the support, like for instance, of hundreds of people or thousands of people in few hours or few days. So it was very important to create this network of contacts and of well-informed people, which are quite independent from mainstream media or mainstream outlets. So another important experience was or were marches for life. Actually, these marches happening in Bratislava and in Košice from the years 2013 and 2015, 2019 were like the biggest mass demonstrations since the fall of communist regime and the mass protests during the Velvet Revolution in 1989. From 50,000 to 60 or 70, 80,000 people were gathering on these different protests. And it was also in together and thanks to collaboration with our bishop conference, and these were important events to bring culture of life and the important topics regarding dignity of life to public space. Unfortunately, despite putting together goals which were then promoted to politicians, also or unfortunately they were not implemented in the legislation process yet, but we are still looking for various strategies how to help to protect this dignity of life in Slovakia. In recent years, and even during the last 3 years, where we had since 2020 elections, so-called conservative government, and in the newspapers with liberal progressive orientation were from the year 2020 very broadly promoted the narrative that it will be like a conservative revolution, and this revolution actually didn't happen, unfortunately, but the last government was falling apart to pieces, and even the position and status quo in various aspects. For instance, with transgender were pushed to the progressive positions during last few years, and that's another important example how important is to not only have like some political program, but also to have competent and well-formed specialists. I mean, from the law and from the different expert groups to keep the legislation process not only on a national level but also on like ministry level under control. Because, for instance, regarding transgender agenda, our Minister for Healthcare who was nominated after the strong anti-campaign against previous healthcare minister who was openly like pro-life and Christian oriented politic. So there was a very strong anti-campaign against him, and the following one, which was who was supported by the only one liberal party in the government, on the last day before he left the office, because he had more problems and also with financing strange projects and this transgender agenda. So on the last day before he left, he just signed the papers and standards which are allowing to, in some cases, to change the sex of men in or women in IDs, even without the hormonal therapy or even without surgical operation. So these are like signed documents which were actually not a problem to just cancel for the Catholic Prime Minister, but he was unfortunately not able to do it. So now we are only like one step from the running this into the practice, and it will be question for the coming government how to try to stop, or for the activists and conservative people how to react on this. So another lesson is to keep an eye not only on national legislation, but even through the of course in different countries can be different system, but also through the not nation or not national legislation level, but in the ministry level, or even sometimes on local governmental level, you can have really dangerous policies happening. Another lesson we learned regarding, as Diane was mentioning, sexual education. So far in Slovakia, we have had for many years the subjects in the schools called education for the family, for the marriage and for the family and for the parenting, and it was not a standalone subject, but it was subject which appeared in different subjects and was going through the all curriculum. Now the efforts were, of course, to put this sexual education as a standalone subject, and also a few concrete books which were created of one institute from Academy of Sciences, and even from some private companies connected and related to Planned Parenthood were created and pushed public for like a campaign. Not only for the education, but it's quite a successful business with this kind of lectures and also this kind of books, because they are offered then to the directors of the schools around the country, even sometimes when they don't have like state approval. So we were also one of the organization which we made a petition for politicians in parliament to bring to support the legislation that parents must be informed before this kind of lectures, and that they can that school cannot force the children to participate in the kind of lectures if they are not in line with like not ideology, but with religion or values of the parents. So it's actually strengthening the control of this, or it's democratize and bringing up the participation of the parents on the public school system in these sensitive questions. So these are actually the value, the trends regarding the values, and there are of course more, and several good practices were also done in last years. For instance, in Slovakia, after many years, finally families are now supported on the national level in the similar way than in Poland or in Hungary, with like tax bonus for parents, and also for that they have like less taxes and higher bonuses in straight support of the families. But it was also interesting that when this campaign like of the former government, like €200 per one kid, appeared, the anti-campaign against this was really very strong, and these politicians with pro-family policies were surprised. How is that possible that media and all the experts are against it? But we consider it this way is how it's important to bring this pro-family and pro-life narratives and explanations as a part of culture and as a part of educational system, and also part of arts and what we see in television and in mass media, because otherwise these policies are often commented like something what is not possible to finance because there is deficit in state finances, but still it's priority number one because of demography and support for the families, that they can bring and raise children how many they would like and prefer. So also the salary bonus called, and it was another successful policy for a longer time planned, and after many years adopted. It's called parental bonus, and actually it's based on the motivational idea or structure that parents who were raising more children are getting some kind of bonus to the salary when they retired, and this bonus is calculated from the social insurance the children pay to the system. So it's also motivational in the way, like if you raise well children and these children are working and paying taxes and social insurance from this social insurance, because you create new solid and like good citizens who are helping to keep the system working. Then you get some percentage of like a bonus, because in comparison with people without raising children or more children, there should be some appreciation from the side of the state. So this was adopted after many years, and it's also pro-woman, because usually in Slovakia, women with more children have a very small retirement salary because of spending more years on maternity leave, and are in some way discriminated, despite they had done very important service for society of raising good new citizens. So it's also solving in some way this discrimination of mothers on the labor market. So there can be many more good or also bad practices experience, but I think we have already heard a lot of interesting speeches, and I will be happy to discuss in the later panel. So if I can call organizers, thank you very much for patience and listening, and I'm looking forward to next collaboration and discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.